We have up next Doug, who's going to be speaking about the paradigm shift of sustainability in State College, and we have his two wonderful children, Charlie and Emery, to introduce him. You guys want to say anything? They really don't. Have a wonderful time with Doug.
Hi, my name is Doug Goodstein. I'm a student program coordinator with the Sustainability Institute. And I'm going to be speaking about how, for me, the best innovation that's happened in sustainability has not been a physical thing, but has been a mental shift that has allowed us to create and come up with innovations that can change and will change the way we look at the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doug Goodstein, and there it is. My name is Doug Goodstein, and I'm the student program coordinator at the Sustainability Institute. And in my role, I have one of the biggest privileges that I think any staff member here at this institution can do, is I get to meet with all kinds of faculty, all kinds of staff, but most of all, I get to meet with so many students about what I would identify as one of the most pressing issues of our time. I look at my calendar every morning, like I'm sure most of us do, try to figure out what we're planning for the day, and every time I see a meeting with students on my calendar, I get so excited. Because I know that when I sit down with those students and we have a deep and awesome conversation, I have this burden of redefining sustainability for them. I have the ability to sit down and say, what do you think sustainability is? 9 times out of 10, the students that I talk to, their definition of sustainability is simply, it's like a global warming thing. It's recycling. There's some compost thrown in there. Maybe there's a polar bear. Maybe there's a tree. But at the end of the day, that's not sustainability to me. That's part of it. That's environmentalism. But to me, sustainability is so much more than that. And that's why I look forward to sitting down with students and talking to them. That's why I like seeing their faces as all of a sudden this word comes to life. The problem is when I sit down and say, hey, I'm with the Sustainability Institute, people think, oh yeah, you're just some hippie, crunchy, earthy guy. You're just that hippie that's wearing Birkenstocks and deciding to all of a sudden work in higher education today. The problem with that is sustainability is overused and underdefined. 1 out of every 1,000 words written in 2008 was a derivation of the word sustainable. 1 out of 1,000. The average college student, for some context, reads, I'm assuming everyone's doing their reading, so let's assume that everyone's reading the 40,000 words that you're assigned every semester. You read the word sustainable 40 times. 80 times a year, a college student will read that word and have no idea what it means. That's why I get excited every day. That's why I get excited walking into the room and having conversations with people. The definition of sustainable development is not new. It's been around since about as long as I've been born. The United Nations created a definition for sustainable development in 1987. That's probably before most of you were born. We've known what the word sustainable means since then. Companies have stolen it, used it, manipulated it, sometimes massacred it. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to 3 key points. It comes down to people, comes down to our environment, and it comes down to our economics. Penn State is no different. Penn State has a definition. It's the simultaneous pursuit of human health and happiness, environmental quality, and economic well-being for current and future generations. This is the definition that gets me up in the morning. This is the definition that gets me excited to meet with those students. Because to the chagrin of many of my colleagues and many students that I meet with, I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not an economist. I'm a humanist. And as a humanist, I believe that we will never solve our environmental problems. We'll never solve our economic problems until we address our human problems. So I come to you today with this definition of sustainability. And every time I come to a student group and I talk with them and I say, oh, this is how beautiful sustainability is, someone eventually raises their hand and says, could you talk about recycling a little bit? I'm confused by the recycling thing. And I'm tired of talking about recycling. I share that with you today. I'm tired of it. We've been recycling as a human culture since human culture existed. Recycling is literally taking one thing and using it as something else. The first human who killed a creature to eat and took the bones and used them as tools, they were recycling. It is not a complex system. The problem is, this is what they're asking about. This is the complicated system that student raises their hand and says, can we talk about recycling really quick? Because it doesn't make sense to some folks. So before, I'm hedging my bets here. Before one of you asks me about recycling during our question and answer session, I'm going to use it as an example to say why I can still talk about recycling. We've all had this experience. Maybe one of us has had it today where we have our hands full of stuff. We walk up to those bins and we're like, that's plastic, but that's plastic. Where do I put my plastic? And then all of a sudden we just guess. And I'll tell you, that's okay. Because I'm less concerned with what plastic you put the plastic in as opposed to you putting it in the trash. Penn State has a recycling program. We've seen it. You can't avoid it here at Penn State. This is our recycle rate. Of all of the paper, the plastic, and the metal that we create as a community, 25% of it gets recycled. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's better than zero. So and when I talk about recycling, I don't care about the percentage that goes in the right bin. I care about the percentage that doesn't. I care about the water bottle that someone throws in the trash, the coffee cup lid that someone throws in the trash. So to me, when students say, can we talk about recycling? They want to understand this. When I talk about recycling, I want you to understand this. Because here at Penn State, anything that goes into the landfill goes directly to the landfill. There's no magic machine that sorts it. There's no human being that makes sure that we're doing the right thing, that to correct your problem, someone else is fixing it directly to a landfill. It gets picked up here on campus, brought to a warehouse, dumped on a floor, run over by a bulldozer, loaded into a truck, and shipped 73 miles away. A community 73 miles from where we stand today, our trash ends up. A landfill is exactly what you think it is. It is a hole in the ground where that tractor dumps our trash. Every day they cover it with soil, and when the hole is full, they turn it into a park. That's a landfill. That's where our trash goes. But let me preface, this isn't a dump. There's a difference. The companies who run our landfills do everything they can to prevent environmental issues. But here's the secret. The plastic coffee cup lid that we throw in the trash, it doesn't biodegrade. It just becomes a smaller plastic. And when it rains, if the plastic is small enough, it enters into a liquid called leachate. And that sounds just as gross as it is. It is plastic water. It is small bits of plastic that have been sucked up into the water and are now sitting in that landfill. These companies know that. So they create this plastic liner that sits on the bottom that prevents that leachate from entering into the groundwater. They know that the organics that we throw away become methane. So they put tubes in the ground that collects that methane and sends it to a power plant to make into energy. They are doing the best that they can. But the problem is they're doing the best that they can with what we put in our trash. But sometimes things happen. This is a community in Pennsylvania. This is a community last year that is now dealing with that leachate, that plastic sludgy nastiness that has now started leaking into the groundwater. So now all of a sudden this looks different. This plastic bottle is not just an exchange of currency when you buy it at the local convenience store. This plastic bottle is no longer just litter sitting on the side of the road when it's not recycled properly. This bottle becomes a human rights problem. And that's why I talk about recycling. Because this picture, the way we look at that plastic bottle differently now, is what sustainability is to me. It's not a solar panel. It's not a wind farm. It's not a major. It's not a minor. It's a way that every time we take this bottle out of the refrigerator, we look at it differently. It changes the way we think. Sustainability is a revolution of our mind. And that's why I keep coming back to this conversation. Revolutions don't happen by accident. When we think about the Dark Ages, it led to the Renaissance. There's a reason the Renaissance came after one of the darkest periods of our time, because it was the most exciting periods of our history. The Renaissance led to the printing press. Think about what our education would be without books, without text, without the ability to democratize learning. It led to geniuses like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Newton, Galileo, who revolutionized and changed the core fundamental way we think about the world. But the revolution did not begin the day Da Vinci was born. The revolution of the mind began hundreds of years before, when countless people, thousands, millions of people started whispering, having conversations with each other, dreaming about what a world could be, not about what the world was. The revolution began in someone's living room. It began in a church. It began in a bar. I prefer it to begin in a bar. But what it did was, when Da Vinci was born, the road was paved for him and Newton and Galileo and countless and thousands of others to truly bring their genius to life. So I stand here today after talking with thousands of students, hundreds of student organizations, and I say to you, the time for this sustainable mental revolution is here at Penn State, and it's here right now. It is time for us to actualize this definition. Thon. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's a thing here at Penn State. But through my conversations with Thon, all of a sudden, they're getting it. So for those of you who aren't aware, I'm sure many of you are, Thon has helped over 37,000 families here in Pennsylvania whose kids have been suffering with pediatric cancer. They've raised $136 million to help stamp out and obliterate a cure. They've worked with thousands of student volunteers, inspired and encouraged them to look at childhood cancer in a different way. But when I sit down with them, they start to see the connection between their desire to stamp out cancer and the cancer that's caused by plastics leaching from our landfills. So I pose to you folks today that if you are going to go next weekend, go dance for the kids, every step and every dance you take is a sustainability dance. Every moment and every dollar that Thon raises is the same as every minute and every water bottle you throw into a recycle bin. The revolution is here, and it's starting in our heads. But Thon isn't the only organization that's starting these whispers, these conversations. I get the opportunity to work with groups like Global Brigades, an amazing group of students who see the connection in a newly globalized world between poverty, economic disparity, and human health. They don't isolate those. They see the connection between the two. I work with a group called Engineers for a Sustainable World. These are awesome folks. They build amazing and really neat things. This is a solar-powered smoothie cart. It uses the power of the sun to power a refrigerator and a blender. And let's just be realistic, the smoothies are pretty badass. They are awesome. But what they understand is that that solar-powered smoothie cart isn't just a neat little parlor trick, isn't just an accomplishment of engineering, but it's a way of connecting innovation with education. It's a way that every single time we grab a glass, we look at how it's made differently and we imagine different possibilities. So for me, that's what sustainability is. Sustainability is more than a definition. It's more than a title. It's a way that we look at the world. It's a way that we imagine problems and the solutions to solve them. So at the end of this time, I'm going to share a quote with you, and I apologize for the quality. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. We think. What we think, we become. This is how I have challenged you to look at sustainability. The revolution, this mental shift is happening here at Penn State. I challenge you to be part of it. I challenge you to think, to read, to grow, to sit and whisper with each other what a future would look like. And when you're done whispering, stand on top of the mountain and shout it so that everyone can hear. Because that's what happened with Nate and Haley. They had a vision. Your next speakers are going to talk to you not only about how this concept of sustainability revolutionized their thoughts, but more importantly, they're going to talk about what they did with it, how they made their vision real. So that's the challenge I leave for you folks today. We don't need to wait for a Da Vinci to come to our campus and solve our problems. I promise you, that won't work. The way revolutions happen and the way we're going to actualize a sustainable future is for all of us to see our connection to it, dream how it connects with what we do, and start paving the road. Because I guarantee you, one of you might be the Da Vinci. And I challenge you to rise to that occasion. But if you don't think you are, or you don't think you're ready, you don't have to be the genius. You just have to do something. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.